It's the worst of the CBC for January 27th, 2020, the show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. Okay, number one story is coronavirus. By the way, it came from snakes, we've learned, so we should be calling it snake flu because that's a much better name. And we already had swine flu and bird flu, and those sucked, and those were pretty lame, so snake flu should be the name. But 2 confirmed cases in Canada, 19 cases, and public health officials are saying nothing to worry about. Now, usually I would say this isn't the type of story I should be covering. Just wash your hands, and everyone should wash their hands, use hand sanitizer. But here's where I have something sort of to add, and here's the insider information. Look, I don't like doing this. I don't do this often. We all know Ben Shapiro's wife is a doctor. I don't bring this up, but both my parents, my brother, I have uncles. I have a lot of doctors in the family, too. And this is only relevant right now, and I'm only bringing this up right now because as someone who has some insider information to the medical community, and my mom was quarantined during SARS in 2003, so I did have some experience with this. The medical administrative community, the bureaucrats in charge of infectious disease control in Canada are terrible. In the words of many doctors I know, our response and our readiness to infectious disease in 2003 to SARS was, in their words, worse than a third world country. So to say Canada was prepared at that point, we didn't even have hand sanitizer in hospitals. Also, the same idiots who mishandled SARS were not kicked out of government. They are still in power. So the same people who bungled SARS are still in power here in Canada. And they are the ones who are telling you it's nothing to worry about. So our problem isn't with the doctors. Our problem is with the medical bureaucrats who are terrible, who are sort of yes men. And their job, the way the Canadian system works in the political level, is they get rewarded from the more they say there's nothing to worry about, the better job they're technically doing, regardless of the job they're doing. So when they say we're at very, very low risk, but there's 2 cases already and 19 cases, we're actually at a moderate risk. It's not super high, but the threat level to Canada, especially Toronto, is actually moderate. We have not grounded flights in from China. We're not doing proper screening from the airports. It's like questionnaire. It's all very chaotic. We removed the health minister, who was the first physician, Jane Philpott. We moved in a 45-year-old social worker who has a bachelor's degree in like social justice nonsense. She's in charge of this outbreak. So we are not fully prepared at a bureaucratic institutional level. A story from my mom's office, she was saying that they were keeping the disease mass sort of behind the patient center because if they left them out in front, then everyone would just take them. And it was like, yeah, that's the point, is for the patients to have them in the waiting room so they don't get incubate the people there. So at the bureaucratic level, at the organizational level, Canada is very, very, very incompetent and ill-prepared to handle this. Now, we have some measures put in at SARS, post-SARS, the hand sanitizers are there, but the same idiots who bungled SARS are in charge of the coronavirus. So when they say we're at a very, very low risk level, which they are saying today, most people in the medical community disagree with the assessment of the bureaucrats. So I think that's important to know. So, don't go to the mall, walk around if you don't have to, get yourself a mask if you want to, make sure to wash your hands. And, I'm not saying this is some sort of government conspiracy where they're using swine flu or coronavirus to control the population. No, this is standard governmental bureaucratic incompetence. And now lives are at stake. So I'm not saying any massive conspiracy. I'm saying incompetence is the story here. Okay, so I'm going to go to the biggest omission or worst covered story. So that's the omission. So I'll say worst covered story. It is the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the Nazi death camp where over 1 million Jews were killed, and among others. So my beef here, and I'm just going to do this because it's Auschwitz Day, was not in the way they covered the Auschwitz story. That was fine. But on the Chiron, underneath it said, on CBC, it said, Trump administration to unveil a Middle East peace plan without Palestinian input. And that's sort of where we are at modern day anti-Semitism, is sort of lying about the Israeli-Palestinian issue helps foment anti-Semitism. And here's my case. Okay, so the peace plan is being made without Palestinian input, which is a technical truth. However, that omits, and lying by omission is one of the ways to slander people, it omits the fact that the Palestinian Authority over and over and over again was invited to be part of these peace talks. They refused every time. They specifically abstained from talking to Trump. It doesn't talk about the fact that they've already rejected 5 different peace plans. So, currently we have anti-Semites and pro-Iran groups at the Israeli embassy right now protesting Israel's existence and all that. And So to compare, one, say like Israel's committing genocide or ethnic cleansing, the population of the Palestinians is increasing, and so is their standard of living. It's higher in Israel than it is anywhere else in the Middle East. And if you want to compare, like, it's a genocide. Okay, do you think if the Jews in Auschwitz were offered 5 different peace plans from the Nazis, if the Nazis said 5 times to the Jews in Auschwitz, hey, you know what, we'll call a truce. We'll stop killing you. We'll stop the extermination camps, and you can have a state here in Auschwitz to yourself. You're just not allowed to attack Germany. Do you think the Jews would have been like, yeah, done? Or no, we're going to continue the resistance, right? So it's patently absurd there. And we also admit the fact that the current leader of the Palestinians, Mahmoud Abbas, has a PhD in Holocaust denial. I'm not making that up. Look up his dissertation. He was trained in the Soviet Union, and his PhD dissertation is actually on how it's Holocaust revisionist history, about how the Holocaust didn't really happen, not that many Jews were killed, how the Jews lie about the Holocaust to create the state of Israel. Like, this is his PhD. He has a PhD in Holocaust denial, and he's the leader of the moderates here. So the PA's plan is currently, they want no negotiation until Israel is destroyed. So until there's 6 million Jews are dead, they won't negotiate, and we don't talk about this on Holocaust Memorial Day or on the 75th liberation of Auschwitz. We also don't talk about the fact that the PA printed an article in their newspaper that had a columnist advocate for people to stab Jews today in order to prevent a memorial service. Their thing was, if just one Jew dies, we could prevent the memorial service from going on. This was the goal of the PA, the moderates, is for someone to commit a terrorist attack, kill a Jew today, so that they couldn't do the Auschwitz memorial service. Admitting that is the modern anti-Semitism. It was just on the Chiron, but when they say without Palestinian input, the Palestinians were invited. They refused. They keep refusing. It's what they do. It's all they do is refuse and obfuscate. So, where's the CBC? I'll give it a 6 out of 10 today on the Rosemary Barden scale. And just remember, Rosemary Barden has been demoted. So that is the good news of the day. And I will be back tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow night, I will be giving a talk in Richmond Hill on anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism and where they go from here. All right. See everyone probably Wednesday.